The next card, I'm going to need this stuff again. I'm going to Command C copy this so I don't have to reset it, or as we say in type, rekey it. Card number 2, Command Option Shift V, paste in exactly the same place. If I happen to be exactly centered in my workspace, Command V will probably work. But if I want to be sure, and maybe I moved it over here and I'm not actually in the center of my workspace anymore, Command V, paste into the center of what I'm viewing. Command Option Shift V, paste into exactly the same space as from where it was copied. What do we want to do here? This is all going to be a single text frame. And I have a video that I provided you explaining why we don't do stuff, cutting little pieces of type and pasting them every place on a digital layout. For one thing, it would be a nightmare to edit if somebody said change a font or change a space, or they added 6 words to a paragraph and that changes how everything else fits. You can't have them all little pieces of paper stuck onto your layout. It has to be as few text frames as possible. So card number 1, you're allowed 2 text frames, the text frame for the logo, the text frame for the what we call in the trade nomenclature, everything that is not the logo. On this one, I want a single text frame for everything. So I'm going to drag my text frame to snap to the guide over here. This is going to be centered. Command Shift C center, or in the type control panel at the top, either the character panel, it's on the right side, I can center. On the paragraph panel, it's on the left side and I can center, or I can use the paragraph palette and center it here. That's going to be centered. In this text frame, this is cool here. If I want a word, I can double click. If I want a line, I can triple click. If I want a paragraph, I can click 4 times. You can click 5 times to get everything in a frame, but I do Command A, does the same thing. But just to get one word here, I could just double click on that word. Command C copy. I'm going to paste that above my name. So put this right here before my name, put a return in, and in front of that return, Command V, ZYX Corporation, and also center that. On this page, this should be 24 and 16. So on the character palette, I'm going to make this 24 point type and a lead of 16. So the lead actually stays the same. You can see I'm pretty close to the top there, but what I want to do here, and B text frame options, baseline options, this is ascent. If I do cap height, it doesn't change, which is amazing because it used to. This is a recent change in InDesign's handling of certain fonts, I guess, because it used to be this would not do that if it was ascent. So if I did X height, I could have that stick out on the margin. And I might want to do that. Or I could do lead, and that's lead. I think I'll do lead, which actually means that the top of the T meets the guide and the dot on the I. It's a jot or a tittle, by the way. If you've ever heard of every jot and tittle, they're talking about dots on I's and the dot on the J. Use leading, and that's why I set the leading at 16 point, because I knew that was where I was going to want it. The name, baseline of the name should be sitting on the center guideline horizontally. So vertical position on the center horizontal guide. Paragraph, I want the space before, it's this one. I want to add space before until my name or your name. The baseline is sitting right on that center guide, and that isn't exactly there, but I think it's close enough. So right there. And this is also where I want the address, but I want the phone number and the email over on the other side. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to pull this open for a minute so I can see. Little red plus sign here means that there is text that doesn't fit in the frame. I'm going to pull this open just until I resolve this. I'm going to double click on the phone number, Command X right here, hit the tab key, and Command V, paste that in, take out that extra return. Actually, I think I want a soft return here because that'll solve that leading problem. Still treat this as a paragraph. Hit the tab key here and take out that pilcrow, that hidden character for the end of paragraph mark. Now there's actually 3 ways of doing this. The way I want on this particular card is select both of these, and Command Shift T gives you the tab setup. I'm going to zoom out a little. And if the top of the page or the top of the frame is visible, I click on this, it will snap that to the width of the text. So here's my text frame, and there's the width of my tab guide. To get these to the right side, I want one right justified tab. You pick which one you want, or you can change them. Right justified tab, and click inside this gray area, and then drag that over to the edge. And if you drag too far, well, you're outside the area there. If you don't want it there, you can pull it off and get rid of it. I'm going to re-snap this to here. Again, select right align tab stop. These are tab stops. These are tab alignments. So I'm going to take this tab stop and move it over right to the edge of the frame, which is a little tricky because I get lost there. Let's see, it should be somewhere around 18 and some odd pica. I just use my up arrow on the keyboard and click this over until it gets to just there, and then go back one, and then I know I'm all the way at the edge. Okay, this is one way of achieving this. This incidentally is probably one of the most boring card layouts there is, but it's one that clients insist is the only way to do a business card. So you should know how to do it, just for the people that can't see beyond mid 20th century perhaps. This is what in the trade would be called a tombstone layout. Tombstone layout because it looks like a tombstone. This is how you carve things traditionally on a tombstone. One thing smack dab in the center and everything's centered, and maybe you've got things aligned to the left and right. It's also how financial ads were placed in the financial publications like the Wall Street Journal when there's a stock announcement, initial stock offering. They'd be tombstone ads. They look like tombstones. Everything's just centered. Boring. About 20, 30 years ago, people started making more interesting stock information ads. There are some people that still think financial ads have to look like tombstones. So that's one way. I'm going to finish the other 4 cards before I go back and show you the other 2 ways of doing this. And the other 2 ways will be optional cards 7 and 8. They do not affect your grade on the project. I care about the 6 cards. 7 and 8, it's nice if you know how to do this 2 other ways. Okay, so that's 2 cards down. I'm going to Command C, copy this. I'm going to use this again on card 3. And I'm just going to scroll down here, or you can use your page palette and click down to here, or you can go down at the bottom and select page number 3 in the bottom left corner of the workspace. Command Option Shift V, paste that back in there again. This one will be just about as exciting as the last one. So select ZYX Corporation, including its return. That was 3 times clicking. Command X, cut, and after the title, Command V, paste, stick that in there again. And this time, select the logo in the paragraph panel at the top or on your paragraph palette. Add space before to this one to get that to be about on the guideline. And before I do that, I think Command V, text frame options, this is based on leading. This one I want to change to be based on cap height, because I don't want the letters to be sticking outside because they're small enough that I don't want them in the margin, but I do want them close to the margin, so I'll go by cap height. And now I can finish moving this right about there. It sits on the center guideline. But these, because of this new relationship of the lines of type, these need to come down more. And I'll do this in my control panel. Needs to be a little more. And to whatever point gets the tail of the G to hang out, but the rest of it stay inside. So it's as close as I can get to the bottom margin. That's too far. That's okay. Even this would be okay because it's okay to have a little extra space at the bottom. Again, optical phenomenon. You usually want a larger, lower margin anyway. On this one, everything has to be centered. And this is centered, but it's not centered where it's supposed to be. It needs to be centered on the right side over the phone number and email. And then this needs to be centered on this side. And the way we do that is Command A, select all, Command Shift T. Let's remove that right align tab stop and add a center align stop around here somewhere, and another one over here somewhere. And where you want it depends on how big your name is. My name is 11 letters and it doesn't quite fit, and I can move it over here and it all fits, but I want it to be as close to the margin as possible. So probably around there. I could select this dimension, this X coordinate of the position of that tab stop with my up arrow on the keyboard. Can I go closer? No. So it has to be right about there for my name. Your name will probably be different unless you have a name that's the same length. To get this to center, I need to hit the tab key in front of 623 and in front of Chicago. And then the other thing I have to do is make sure, Command A, select all, that this tab stop is in as far as the middle of Chicago, Illinois, 60605. That's not far enough. Again, I'm going to select this dimension, the X coordinate of that tab stop, and with the up arrow on my keyboard, keep moving this until they align. These are now center aligned. Now, how far to the left can I go and still have them center? Right there, they are centered. If I go one more click, you see 623 just started moving. So the answer is it has to be about here. And that's most of card 3, but my name has to be in that second tab. And this will be interesting. I'm going to add 2 hidden tab characters here, hitting the tab key to get those over there, and then ask you, does that look like it's centered? And the answer is, it's probably not centered. And the reason it's not centered, put a guideline in here. When I grade this thing, I usually spend a lot of time putting guidelines on your PDF proofs to show you that things are not centering. The center align tab stop only works correctly if the paragraph alignment is flush left, align left, or quad left. These are centered. But if I use center alignment on everything, nothing is centered. The center align tab stop only works correctly if the paragraph alignment is flush left. And I can apply that to everything and then just go back and center align my logo. And that's the end of card 3. Card 4. Card 4 actually has something in common with the first card. So I'm going to go back to the first card and Command-C copy, and then go to card 4 and Command-Option-Shift-V paste. Once again, I want to use the full area, live area of the card within the margins. Copy my logo and put it in here. Be sure that you are in the logo text frame copying the type, not copying the frame. Get rid of that. Now, once again, I want to adjust the spacing. Paragraph before the logo, I need to be down around here. This needs to once again be the 24-point logo. And then I need to reduce the space before the address. I just want it someplace sort of centered in the bottom half of the live area of the card. Someplace around here would be good. Now, what I want is that the name, title, and the address block are left aligned to the center guideline without moving the logo. So what I'm going to do is use an indent. The indent I'm going to use is 1.5625 inches because 1.5625 inches is exactly half of the live area of the card. So paragraph indent 1.5625 and use an inch sign, which converts to 9 picas 4.5 points, but that gets all that over there. I want to have a first line indent that is minus 1.5625 or minus 9 P 4.5 points, 9 picas 4.5 points. And it should look like that. And it's not quite what I had in mind, so I'm going to put soft returns in here. I don't know why I didn't use soft returns on the first one. And then Command-Shift-T, my tab setup, you can see here's my indent, and this is my first line indent, these little triangles, and I have no tab stops. Good. Okay, so I'm not going to use tab stops, but without tab stops, if I just hit the tab key, the type will jump to the paragraph indent. This one, I don't jump because it's where it's supposed to be. Everything else is aligned to the center. That's the end of card number 4. For card number 5, copy card number 1 again and go back to card 5 and Command-Option-Shift-V. I want the address block to be lower. Add some space to get this down to where it's about centered in that bottom right quadrant. The logo is going to be about here. I want to move the logo to where the edge of the C is just slightly ticking outside the guideline. Now here I want to create an actual logo, and a logo should normally be an EPS file. An EPS file means that when you send your logo to a printer or somebody manufacturing something for you, somebody doing specialty merchandising, signage, if you give them an EPS where the type is not type but has been converted to curves, they can't screw around with your logo. They can't mess up your logo if it's an EPS and it's been converted to curves. I mean, they could go in and edit the curves, but hopefully they won't. The other thing is they won't require having the font if they need to do something with your logo if it has been treated as a graphic that is no longer dependent upon fonts. Command-Option-O, convert that to an object, and you can see that this is now a vector object. If I take my direct select tool, you can see that I've just made these into editable vectors, although I don't want to edit them. I just want to make sure that they're preserved as vectors. And the other thing is that the board has decided they want to see a 2-color business card. I could have done this before it was converted to type also and just select the type, but now that it's curves, I'll do it this way. And I don't want any of these colors. I want a Pantone spot color because it has to be something that can be uniformly mixed by anyone, anywhere in the world using the Pantone formulas to be a solid color. This works a little different than Illustrator and Photoshop in terms of selecting the colors. If I go to the palette options and say new color swatch. At this point, I can tell it it's not a process color, it's a spot color. And it's not based on CMYK, it's based on the Pantone solid coated swatch book. I think in the instructions I say to use uncoated on card 5 and coated on card 6, but it doesn't really matter. The way the swatches work, the swatch tells a printer what Pantone mixing colors, what proportions he should use to get this particular color. The mix is the same whether it's for coated paper or for uncoated paper. The difference is that in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, using a coated swatch, you get the full intensity of the color. If you use an uncoated swatch, it looks like it would on a non-coated paper where the ink is absorbed differently and the reflection is different, so it's a slightly more subdued color. But in terms of mixing, it's the same. ZYX red is Pantone 186, so there it is. I'll say okay, it's added it to my, oh darn, I am going to go back and undo this. It will be simpler to do it as type before converting it to curves, and make that new color swatch, spot, Pantone solid coated 186, and then Command Option O, convert that to an object. Now, to make this into a usable EPS, this is going to be important. It's a good idea at this point to move the nomenclature block out of the way, and then File, Export, or Command or Control E. As an EPS, I'll call it ZYX logo and save it as an EPS file. And I want only this page, which is page 5. I don't want to export the whole thing. I'm going to open that in Illustrator, and it